Good afternoon, Ms. Lewis. Thank you so much for meeting with me today to have your SLO mid-course conference. I really appreciate you letting me come in and meet in your classroom.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you coming here. It's a lot easier, more convenient when I'm meeting in my room since I have to take my kids to special area. So thank you for that.
No problem at all. I always enjoy coming into the classrooms. So, today the purpose of our conversation is to talk about your SLO and the progress that you and your students are making towards meeting your goals, and to also talk about some ways that I can continue to support you in implementation of your SLO. So I appreciate you sending me your SLO and your data beforehand and organizing it in a way that's meaningful. That gave me an opportunity to kind of become abreast of what we're going to be talking about and follow along.
Okay.
So I appreciate that. And just so you know, I'll be taking notes either on the computer or by writing, just so that I'll help remember what I need to tell you and any important key points, and also to remember anything that I may want to share with you a little bit later.
Okay.
So feel free to do the same.
I have everything here to do that, so thank you.
Great. You're welcome. So you've sent me a variety of data. You've sent me some MAP data, some DIBELS data, and some Fontes and Pinnell here. And so I've gotten an opportunity to look at that. And I also noticed that you've sent some weekly assessment data, and you use a lot of unit tests and spelling tests to help assess your students' learning. Talk to me a little bit about the data that you've seen and the data that you've collected and some trends that you've noticed.
Okay. So again, I do have a lot of data, but I want to focus on big picture first, so looking at MAP and DIBELS data.
Great.
So out of my 10 students, 9 of them have increased their MAP scores, but 1 stayed the same. And out of those 9 that increased, 4 of them need more targeted intervention, because if they continue at this slower pace, they won't meet the targets that I have set. So that has me a little nervous, a little anxious about that. And DIBELS is similar. All of the students are progressing, but they're progressing at a rate where they won't make the targets that I set.
Okay. So what I'm hearing you say is that you've noted that some of your targets may not be appropriate for the students. Let's look specifically at some individual students.
Okay.
Okay, and talk to me about the discrepancies that lie.
All right. So let's take a look at my first student here. If you noticed, he hasn't moved at all. And I have some information from running records and other assessments that I have. He struggles with oral reading fluency, which is affecting his comprehension. And I have 3 other students that are in similar situations. Oral reading fluency is an issue, their comprehension is an issue. So what I did was I've given some additional assessments where I read the passages to them, and they answered the questions, and they did a lot better than when they had to read the passages independently.
Right, so I think it was important that you used their oral reading comprehension to help gauge and identify some discrepancies in their learning. So that's awesome. It seems like you've taken a really deep dive into your MAP data and your DIBELS data. Talk to me about some of the formative assessments that you mentioned here in your SLO and how you're using that data to help you inform instruction.
So I'm in one of these situations where I have a lot of data. I take some each day I have quick daily observations, I have running records, I have more structured weekly formative assessments, but to be honest with you, I haven't really sat down to really analyze the data to see how the instruction is impacting their learning. I really have focused on MAP and DIBELS. So I know that's an issue where I need to really focus on some of my other data that I have.
Great. So, and you've collected quite a bit,
Yes.
particularly your observation data, and that data is important to have. It helps you keep some anecdotal notes on your students and what they know, understand, and are able to do. So that's great, but I want you to consider the purpose for administering your assessments, because we don't want to test students just for the sake of testing them.
Right.
We want to make sure that you can get some quality, valuable data that's going to help you make decisions about how to instruct your students.
Right.
Okay. So, and all that information should drive your instruction. So, let's sit down. Let's maybe take some time in the next week or so to sit down, and I can help you analyze that data, some of the data that you've collected.
Okay.
I can help you analyze that and help make some decisions. And in fact, I'd even be open to doing that with your team.
I would appreciate that. In fact, all of us would like that. One good thing about this process is that we've talked about data a lot more than we have previously. So I know the team would appreciate you working with us to analyze the data. So thank you for offering.
Oh, no problem. It's my pleasure. So So we've talked about a few of your students who are struggling here. Talk to me about those students who are performing above grade level. You noted in your SLO here that you would be using some instructional strategies specifically for those students, namely using advanced vocabulary strategies and spelling lists. How has that impacted your data?
So we have implemented vocabulary lists, and the students are learning the words, but they're learning it in isolation, so they don't see any connections with the words and what we do with our daily language and writing. So we're going to incorporate that with other content areas. So as a team, we've talked about encouraging the students to keep a journal of any new words they encounter. And we've also implemented a content word wall. So instead of focusing on new vocabulary solely in reading, we're going to move it over to other content areas. We've seen some improvements with students, and we've seen some gains, but we don't have any hard data to show you.
Okay. So it's great that you're using these strategies that you talked about, and your entire team is even using them. That's good. Let's talk a little bit about one of the other strategies that you listed here, and that's supplementing their reading with above grade level reading materials. And also you mentioned using some primary source documents in some of your content areas like science and social studies. How has that impacted your data?
I've incorporated primary source documents, and the students really love reading those. And it's hard for me to find different level texts, specifically above grade level texts. What we've used is beneficial, but again, I think we need to increase our library.
Great. Okay. So it sounds like you and your team are really working to incorporate these strategies across the grade level to meet these students' needs. So I think that's awesome, and I hope that you continue to see the improvements that you've been seeing. Have you had an opportunity to meet with the reading interventionist? I know you mentioned it in your SLO. Have you had an opportunity to do so? And if so, what support has she been able to provide, and how's that helped you?
Well, I have met with her a couple of times, but to be honest, I haven't implemented a lot of the strategies that she shared with me, and I don't think I've used her as a resource like I could, especially since I have a group of students who are struggling, and I need some assistance with how to help them to grow. Again, I also need help finding level texts. There are times when I'm teaching where I'm in front of the classroom too much, and I know the students would benefit from small group and more one-on-one instruction, but I find myself being the sage on the stage, filling them with knowledge. So we talk about in our PLCs the importance of working in small groups one-on-one. I just don't know how to effectively structure my reading block where I can do that. So that's an area where I think she could help me, and just with consistency.
So what do you think about me arranging some time for you and the interventionist to sit down, meet, and plan? She can help you, definitely help you identify some leveled reading texts that'll be appropriate for all of your students. And she'll also be able to help you structure your reading block so that you can create some small groups and have time to meet with those groups, as well as have something for the other students to do that meet their needs.
I think that would be good. I would appreciate that. It's one thing to have these ideas, but if I could come out with an actual plan to implement, that would be helpful for me. So thank you.
Great. I think it'll be important for you to do that as well. So we've been talking a lot about your data and what the data is telling you. So initially it sounded like you wanted to adjust your growth targets. I think it might be best if we take a really targeted look at the instruction that you're providing. And once you meet with the interventionist and have some help planning, and then you and I sit down and look at the data, and then you instruct students on a level that meets their needs, I think you'll start to see the improvement that you were hoping for.
I'd have to agree. I am still a little nervous, but talking with you, I see that I haven't been consistent with any one of my strategies. So if I could really look at the data, be consistent with what I implement, I should see some more positive results, especially with those 4 students.
Right. I agree. I agree here. So I think what we've done is we've identified a plan that will work. Okay, we'll take a look at your instruction, we'll take a look at your planning, and then analyze the data so that we can make sure we're on track and your students are making progress towards their goals. So I think, again, we've identified something that will work. On your SLO, you also mentioned in section 9, you talked about the fact that you were reading a book on differentiation, leading and managing a differentiated classroom.
Yes.
And that's an awesome book. Were you able to pull out any strategies from that book that you're using in your classroom, and how's it impacted?
So I am reading the book. I've seen a few strategies that I really like and I think would be beneficial. But again, I haven't been consistent with implementing any of them. But I know it's important. Consistency is important, and I know there are actually a couple of strategies that I really want to use.
So I'm glad that you were able to find something that worked. I would suggest you choose one strategy from the text that you can use and implement in your classroom, and do so with fidelity, so that way we can track that along and see the progress that your students are making and the impact that it has on your students. And I'd actually be willing for you to share some of that data and the information with your team at team planning. So let's focus on one strategy to implement.
Okay, so I will pick that one strategy and work on it and collect the data.
Great,
All right.
good. So what other questions do you have?
Well, I don't have any additional questions, but I do know and I appreciate that I'm able to email or stop by your office if I need some help, so thank you for that.
Of course, you're always welcome. I really appreciate your time today, and just so that we're on the same page, I'm going to make sure that I meet with the interventionist and set up time for you two to meet and plan, and I'll cover your classroom if needed. So what we'll do is we'll find some time for you and me to meet and sit down and analyze your data.
Okay.
So that we make sure we drill down into your data.
All right.
Okay. And then for you, what are your next steps?
I have that I will identify one strategy to incorporate from the book, and then to work with my team to flesh out our content word wall.
Great. Sounds good. I appreciate your time. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care.